GOP presidential hopeful Nikki Haley, thought to be a favorite among a lot of people who didn't like Donald Trump, has landed herself in a lot of hot water this week after she unveiled a plan for social media if she was elected president. Have a listen to this.
The first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility.
A free speech register doesn't sound problematic at all to me. Joining me to discuss this and more is former U.S. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Matthew Whitaker, what did you make of Nikki Haley's comments there? Some are criticizing her of being unconstitutional. I think this idea that people have to register their names to be able to speak on the Internet is completely against the First Amendment. But then again, I'm not the lawyer. You are. What do you think?
Well, I think a couple things, and it's good to be with you. The first thing I would say is that, it's certainly the First Amendment protects all speech, whether it's anonymous or whether it's for attribution. That being said, she is striking a vein here that I hear as I travel all over this country, and that there are many bots, whether they're, wherever they're located, North Korea, Russia, or somewhere in between, and that they are and do, amplify certain types of content, that the algorithms then pick that up and amplify it even more. And I think that is a problem, but that needs to be policed by the social media companies who have complete visibility as to who's using their platform and whether or not these are robots or whether these are real people. So, I think she's capturing something. Again, Nikki, I'm from Iowa. We're having a First Nation caucuses in less than 2 months. And, she is certainly hearing from my fellow Iowans as she's campaigning a frustration with, the anonymity on the Internet. I just think that the solution is not a registry on social media, but, it is a frustration for sure.
Yeah, and surely one of the biggest problems with social media isn't even American-based companies like X or Facebook, but companies like TikTok, which are, the real problem would seem to be, Matt Whitaker, the algorithms that seem to be pumping all sorts of content. We've seen complaints that, pro-Hamas algorithms are being pushed out and, flipping people's minds on the Israel-Palestine conflict.
No doubt about that. TikTok is a infectious disease that has been unleashed by the Chinese. They do not feed their teenagers the things that the United States and other countries' teenagers see, and it is used as a way to sow discord. And I think this is we need to, more importantly, I think, make sure that our fellow citizens understand the dangers of social media, understand how to use it, and understand how to use it for a benefit and not just be manipulated by it.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely right. I think that starts in the schools and with the parents as well. But I want to move on now to New York and Trump's civil fraud trial. Now, he's argued that the civil fraud trial against him is tainted by overwhelming bias by the Manhattan judge deciding his fate. He's made a motion for a mistrial, but also just hours ago, the gag order against him has also been taken off because the judge cited it as being unconstitutional. What's the latest on this case, and how is it playing out?
Yeah, and remember, this is just one of the first 5 that we're going to see here as we head into the 2024 general election. But, what this judge in New York has done is, first of all, he gave a granted summary judgment. So he said essentially that President Trump is liable, and now they're figuring out the damages of the remedy phase, whether they take away his companies, liquidate them, appoint somebody to manage it for him, or other remedies, including a $250 million fine. But all that being said, is I think this case is probably the weakest of all the cases of civil, first of all, and secondly, the deck is stacked against him. But I just think that this summary judgment, granted, there's been so much evidence presented in this damages phase about the worth of his and the value of his assets, and that's clearly this judge in granting summary judgment assigned just ridiculously low values and doesn't understand how real estate works.
Well, indeed, but I mean, the politics of this, too, I think, would be, and would you agree, Matt Whitaker, that when you see these politicized cases and you see district attorneys and judges seeming to be trying to get Trump, a lot of voters who I think, are on the fence about the man kind of feel sympathy for him. Is that playing out in the polls or what you're seeing in America?
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously we do have a two-tier system of justice in the United States of America currently. It's being manipulated by Democrats to go after, especially Donald Trump and some of his key allies. At the same time, the system is supposed to be able to sort through this and make sure that there are juries of his peers that will hear these cases and make sure that there are appeals courts that can hear the legal arguments. Because in each one of these cases, and I think one of the most important things is these are novel legal theories that have never been used against anybody else except Donald Trump. And so each one of these cases, they're going to have to decide if these laws even apply to this alleged behavior and this set of facts that the government is trying to prove.
Yeah, look, I think it's all pretty un-American, frankly, if I can use an overused word. But I want to move on finally to the gun trial of Hunter Biden, where Hunter's attorneys have asked a federal court in Delaware to approve subpoenas for Donald Trump, William Barr, the former attorney general, and other senior Justice Department officials, because they're saying, oh, well, it's not so much that Hunter did or didn't do this crime, but somehow that actually the real crime is that the probe was politically motivated. Matt Whitaker, this seems like the absolute definition of chutzpah to me for a Biden to be complaining about a politically motivated probe.
Yeah, and if you read this, the support for these subpoenas of President Trump and Bill Barr and others, it essentially says that, Hunter Biden was targeted by the Department of Justice for improper purposes and violated the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. And, it'll be very interesting when that same argument is presented to federal courts in the Trump cases, because, that's coming. And, if they grant it here, they're going to have to grant it to have Joe Biden and Merrick Garland and others come before those trials. So I think at the end of the day, the judge is going to be smart on this. He's the standard to actually get these subpoenas is they have to have relevant information. And so there's got to be a basic showing that these people would be able to talk about this topic and not just some anonymous Washington Post article attached to a subpoena to support it. So, I think there's a long way to go in this, but it does point that, this two-tier system of justice is obviously playing out on both sides. And it's now because of the questions in the American people's minds, especially the way Donald Trump's been treated. I think this is a legitimate issue for cases, and it's going to make prosecutors, I was a U.S. attorney for 5.5 years, and it's going to make our cases a lot tougher because juries are going to be a lot more circumspect on why you're bringing this case, and you're going to have to start to demonstrate the motivations, and that's going to be a hard thing because, you should be wearing a white hat and prosecuting cases because that's where the facts lead you to prosecute.
Matt Whitaker, that's a phenomenally smart point about the impacts and the corrosive nature of this politicized justice system on the broader American system of justice and Americans' faith in it. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us.